Tracy, you have a different experience and you've done lots of foreign reporting, but what's interesting is you've also done it domestically. The things that now we didn't think we had to worry about as domestic correspondents, but we do. Can you talk a little bit about the way that you've covered domestic stories and how you've had to think about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of the same issues. So over the past year, I spent a lot of time in Ferguson reporting the protesting there, Baltimore, and here in New York. And you're taking a lot of the same things into consideration, and you sort of don't think that you have to do that on your own turf sometimes. And so Ferguson was particularly interesting because I did get more access than some of my colleagues because I'm young and I'm Black, and I looked like a lot of the people who were organizing there, and so they trusted me, they wanted to talk to me. But being young and Black in protests also meant I was a target for the police and for a lot of the things that were going on, tear gas, I had the gas masks on, things like that. And going with an organization like NBC was great because they did train us. They trained us on how to use a gas mask. We always had to have a buddy system sort of reporting. And so they did a good job with that, but you're definitely thinking, what is the story I'm trying to get? How am I going to approach it, and what's going on around me, and how does that affect how I'm going after the story? And part of that too was, NBC was very wise to get us security. So we had security coming with us at night when covering any of the protesting that was going on, or riots that sort of started to happen. But what do you do when you're in Ferguson and your security person is a white man who's retired from the police department in Ferguson? That also put us at risk in some way. So you had to think about, okay, well, there's security and they're here to protect me, but how can I also protect myself if security maybe makes the situation worse, right? And so that was one thing that we definitely had to think about. And so I would say, if you are going into a place that sort of is a conflict zone, even if it seems to be in your backyard, in some place where you kind of know the landscape, you have to think about those things. Maybe you want security that sort of fits in, that looks like, that's not gonna make you stand out more. And you wanna think about, okay, if I'm going after the story of the protesters, how can I use how I look or how I fit in to tell that story? But if I am on the front lines when police are throwing tear gas, how do I also be smart about how I look and how I present myself so that I don't also put myself at greater risk?
These are new issues at NPR. We had a big tall Brit, and you couldn't bring him anywhere because it would make you more vulnerable. So they hired a woman. It's possible. Yes. There are women security agents. It's like, you just have to think about it. Do you think it was harder domestically because you don't expect it? Or did you find that the company actually had thought it out before you went to Ferguson and knew that you were going to need some extra training?
I think NBC took it really seriously beforehand in terms of planning, right? They're a large organization, it's corporate journalism, and so they're always assessing risk, and they're always figuring out who they're gonna send. Is that person prepared? Can we make sure there's training for everyone? So we did have to go through training, and they had in Ferguson and in Baltimore, they had compounds for us where we knew we could always go back there to be safe. What happens is you do think, okay, well, I work for this organization that's taken all these precautions, I'm going to be okay. And what they don't expect is that it might not work out that way. So for instance, journalists were a huge target in Ferguson. The people did not like journalists. They did not want us there. They particularly hated CNN. And what happens then when the rioters started shooting at and throwing things at the journalism compounds? And so I think you weren't even safe in the safe areas that they set up for you, and that was what was unexpected. I sort of think there was this level of, they took so much precaution, we're gonna be okay, and I would just say you still can't really let your guard down, even if you think that security is set up for you, because anything can happen even here at home. And emotionally it can be harder, I think, at home to distance yourself from a story, right? So you see people who look like you and who have similar backgrounds as you feeling really passionately about something, and you have to remove yourself from that and report the story.
And it just means that nobody needs us anywhere to tell their story.